My memories from childhood are that my mom was more of a mix, like what you compare your dad to, as being an artist and having these compassionate sides, but also having the core structure. So maybe this is what the rules said, but you didn't enforce them.
Right.
My mom is now a Tea Partier. I don't know where your dad would have been if he had lived these past 2.5 decades. But I'm sure you must know people who are in that similar trajectory.
I do. They write to me all the time.
How do you deal with those people, especially the ones that are close to you?
Well, you know, you phrased it in a very personal sense of your mother, so I'm not going to be glib about it.
Sorry, my mom flew in yesterday, so.
Yeah. I'm not going to be glib about it. But the fact of the matter is, I think it all divides into certain categories. There are people who are genuinely misled. They have bought the bullshit. They don't understand that on the inside of these regimes are some very calculating and very hypocritical people who don't believe anything they're saying. People like the Koch brothers, for instance, who have been funding these far-right groups till their fingers got burned because it went more radical than they thought it would. And all of a sudden, you know, their vast trillion-dollar portfolios are going to be worth less because these folks have actually done what they said they were going to do. You have people like that. Then you have the Ted Cruz's. His dad is a maniac, literally. So he was raised as a crazy, charismatic fundamentalist loon, and he's carried it into politics, thinking that he's on a mission from God. Ted Cruz really is my guy. He's Billy, and he's sincere. So then there are the people who are not sincere in leadership, but they know how to pretend they are. And the tragedy is that the Republican Party, you know, everybody, this is nothing you don't know, I mean, the tail is wagging the dog. The Tea Party is primarying people. They've locked up these gerrymandered states, etc. And then you come down in the strata to just ordinary people who think that Fox News is telling the truth, that Obama's not an American, and so forth and so on. And they're listening to all of this. Part of this is a reaction change because of the demographics. You know, if Obama had done everything he did, but he was white, it would be a very different result right now. Some of it is just a sense of losing the culture, you know, losing the gay rights fight, losing the abortion fight, losing the demographic fight, losing the immigration fight, and it's kind of a rear guard, lashing out. I get a lot of that in the response to me. It literally isn't rational. And I'm not saying that because they disagree with me, because there's plenty of rational people who hate my work and say so, and they say it very well. But there's a whole bunch that aren't. And you know, and literally, I'm not being maudlin. You feel sorry for them. You don't answer them because you can't get into an exchange with folks like this. And then there are people who would be open to see something differently if it hit home close to them. If they find out their son or their daughter's gay. If they have to rethink the received wisdom because of something of the evidence of their own eyes or their own heart. They know something different, sort of like the 1984 George Orwell experience in the book, when all of a sudden, you know, he's hearing all these lies, but he has two contradictory pieces of information for a minute in his own hands, and for that second he understands he's being lied to. That happens with people. But I got to be honest with you, I think the only hope is the generational shift. I don't think a lot of these folks can be convinced. I think they have to be marginalized. I think they have to be defeated at the polls, and I think it has to be called as it is. So like right now on HuffPost, I have a piece on the front page of the religion section, which is not a kind headline, but it's something like, America does not have a politics problem, it has a dumb religion problem. And that's the truth. And I fault the New York Times and the big media for being so polite and sort of extrapolating from the idea of religious tolerance and freedom that you can't criticize people's personal beliefs. Well, you should criticize them when it costs us $24 billion and brings us to the brink of default. Then it's time to say, what on earth do you believe? No, Noah did not load dinosaurs onto the ark. There was no ark. And you were an idiot if you think there was. And really call it, and bring the full bore of combination of intellectual argument and mockery to bear. Because this movement has to be destroyed. And it has to be destroyed not for the sake of the U.S. only, and I know this will sound crazy, but for the sake of the actual gospel. The good news that there's an omnipotent, loving being that I believe is in this universe that cares for people, and that it's not all about stupid gerrymandered districts and gay marriage and keeping Hispanics out of our country or whatever it may be. So the people who ought to be leading the charge on this are the respectable evangelical establishment, if you could put it this way, because it's their wagon that's getting the wheels taken off generationally. The reason they're going to lose so many folks and more people will be ticking the none box, N-O-N-E, on what religious affiliation you have, and so on, is going to be because of these folks. So if they were just pursuing their best interest instead of the immediate dollar and power, they would bail. But they're not going to do it. And so how we confront it, I think when it's your mom or somebody personal, maybe say nothing or be kind or back off or just give them something to read or hope that, the cousin they love who turns out to be gay will raise some issues for them, whatever it may be. But when it comes to the movement, and I know there'll be people who disagree with this, but just being completely honest with you, I think that we have to do everything in our power to destroy the movement. And I'm not talking about violence or anything underhanded, but I mean, we are done with these dancing around pieces on analyzing the Tea Party that just sort of casually mentions that 80% of them are evangelical Christians. We have to start talking about what is the religious presuppositions of a group that are ready to wreck the country for the sake of what has amounted now to a holy war mixed with a racist attack on our first black president. That's where we're at. And we just have to be honest and call it like we see it. And the big-time media has got to get some courage on this and stop dancing around it. Yeah.